First of all, thank you all for joining the session. Um, Africa has become really an interesting place for me. I've been there about four or five, six times in since 2010, and it turns out to be a wonderful place for photography if you're a wildlife photographer, as I am. And it offers some very interesting challenges. But to begin with, let me comment on taking a safari. It is not cheap. That's the only way to describe it. But you have the choice of going relatively inexpensively, relatively, or you can go very high end and stay at Four Seasons and places like that. I tend to stay sort of in the middle of all of that. You can stay in lodges or you can stay in camps. You'll see some camp pictures as I go through the slides. I prefer camps, but the point I want to make, a couple of points I want to make. First of all, if you're going to go, I would encourage you going for 10 to 12 days. It's a long trip, and there's a lot of ground that you could potentially cover. My preferred places are Tanzania and Kenya, but I've also photographed wonderfully in Botswana and a little less interesting in South Africa. Um, if you're going to go, I strongly encourage you to make sure that your guide knows photography. I'm going to actually mention the two guides here that I've traveled with, a person named Emmanuel Lema and a person named Cabo Nteme. Both of them are not only guides, they understand the animals, but more than that, they know how to position the trucks. So they're always cognizant of the sun. They're always cognizant of the way the animal is moving. They have an instinct about where to position a truck to make the animal walk toward you. And it's actually pretty exciting, okay, when they do it. And I've been with people who are not don't have photographic expertise, and it's actually very frustrating. Just one other comment: you're going to see a fair number of bird pictures. Emmanuel Lema, I travel with him a lot, and he is also, in addition to a photography guide, he is a birder and a birding guide in Tanzania. Okay, so let's begin. And I want to start with the trucks. This is the type of truck that we shoot in. You could see the guy up there. So these windows are open. You stand up and you shoot the animal. You see, this is a couple of cheetahs. I'm in a truck facing them. But the nice thing about these trucks is that there's a lot of room. You can shoot in all directions. However, and this is really important for a safari, is the number of people that are in the truck with you. I encourage you to have no more than 3 or 4 in a truck like this. I even think 3 is great. Most recently, I've been doing private safaris, so I have the truck to myself, which makes it really great. Okay, so these are the kind of trucks that I actually prefer. This is another kind of truck. I've actually shot from this truck too. I show you this because think about trying to shoot being in this truck. Look at how the photographers are struggling, especially this guy right here. I am sure he's leaning over someone. Don't spend your money if you're going to be in a truck like this. It's just too cramped. And remember, you're going to be in the truck at least twice a day for 3 hours. And sometimes, if you're doing photography like I do, you get in the truck at 6 o'clock in the morning and you get out at 7 o'clock at night. So you spend a lot of time in these trucks. I shoot with 3 lenses. One is a 24 to 200. It's a small camera, and I use that primarily for when I need broad, wide shots, and that happens. I also shoot with a 200, excuse me, a 70 to 200, which I use a lot, and I usually use it with a 1.4 teleconverter, and then I also shoot with a 150 to 600. In almost all cases, I'm shooting manual. I'm shooting 5.6. Even when I'm shooting mammals, I'm shooting 1/1600th of a second or faster. And on birds in flight, if I can get it up there, I shoot to 1/2000th of a second. As I said, I shoot in manual, and then I let ISO float. And I find that really helps for me. Okay. So I wanted to start with this photo because this is a lilac-breasted roller. This is the sort of the braggart bird of the area. They're everywhere. They're beautiful, and as you can see, when you get the shot, you can get great bokeh behind them if you're shooting with 5.6. And these guys literally are everywhere, and they're just beautiful. I mean, even in real life, they just are wonderful. Okay, this is a Vero's eagle owl. Okay, both the last picture and this one are really examples of what I call portraiture wildlife. This one of the big mistakes we make on our first safari is we do almost exclusively portraiture. And then we get home and get really frustrated. Why did I only do that? So the trick is to try to be creative, okay? This is a different Vero, same species, but he was hiding behind a tree. I got frustrated until I realized that there was an opportunity. And indeed, I took it. Okay, and I'm really, really happy with this photo. And another time in another trip, I was shooting a Vero, and he happened to be in a nest. The interesting thing about this guy is they have these red eyes. And now in a situation like these, where the bird is pretty much still, I'm still bursting. And the question is why? These birds have nictitating membranes, and so do some of the mammals. And if you're just getting one or two, you have a high probability of getting the nictitating membrane and basically throw the picture out. It's not worth it. Okay. Okay. Not only do I like to do birds in flight, but birds landing and taking off is also one of the things I really enjoy. This is a black-shouldered kite, which is really cool, really beautiful. They're fairly available. And the thing about kites is they hover. So they'll be hovering over a spot, flapping their wings and not moving like a helicopter. And it turns out to be great opportunities. They're also beautiful birds, as you can see. Okay. At the water, it's fun to get the water birds. The bigger bird here is a pied avocet. The smaller bird is a chestnut-banded plover. To be honest, I was shooting the avocet, and when I looked at my pictures, I found that I had the plover in. And again, I was bursting, so I had a lot of pictures of these guys. And as you can see also, if you look back, you'll see that there's a fair amount of bokeh or bouquet, depending upon how you pronounce it. Sometimes there's fun things to get. This is a cattle egret. They're ubiquitous, and they tend to hang out around the elephants. And I got lucky. He was flying by. I was actually shooting him. He turned. He was flying by an elephant, and I got this picture. Again, this is absolutely not a portrait, but gives you some action and gives the idea of what's going on in the environment. I put this in just because I love this bird. This is a long-crested eagle, okay? And he's got the coolest face in the world. And that crop is up all the time. They're not particularly available, but when you see them, they're great. I have one picture of one of these guys after he got caught in a rainstorm, and it was actually very, very funny. But I put it in because he's just a beautiful bird as far as I'm concerned. Okay, the real reason to burst, okay? You're looking right now at a white-fronted bee eater. and the bee has a very short time left of its life. The cool thing about these bee eaters, and there are about 5 or 6 different species of them, is they'll be on a perch and then they'll fly off to catch a bee or anything, a moth or something, and then they come back to the perch to eat it. So this is fairly unusual that something was flying by and he caught it. Again, this is important for bursting. And again, this is like a 5.6 shot. Okay, this guy is called a Western banded snake eagle. Can you tell why? I think so. He ate this, he was eating this snake. We saw him catch it. We saw him go back up into the tree, and he was struggling with this snake for easily 15 minutes. And I've got a lot of photos of him. And just when he was just real comfortable, another eagle came in and stole it from him, which was exciting, but I didn't get the shot, unfortunately. All right, these birds are not particularly small because they're eagles. This guy is called a superb starling. Okay, and they're about as big as the starlings that we have here. What does he have in his mouth? He's got a baby black mamba. Okay, black mambas are some of the most dangerous snakes in Africa. Okay, as a matter of fact, shortly after we took this picture, a 12-foot black mamba slithered right in front of our truck. The interesting thing about this shot, and the reason why I put it in, is he fought with this little snake for a long time. But the thing about this snake is it's tiny. If it's maybe 14 inches, it's a lot. But if any of us were bitten by this thing, we're dead in a half hour. The mambas are incredibly poisonous. And the standing joke when you're in the bush is if you're bitten by a black mamba or a green mamba for that matter, just lie down on the ground on your back and then cross your hands across your chest because it'll be easier to fit you in a casket after you die. And that's the standing joke. But this is the one and only time, that day was the one and only time I had ever seen black mambas, seen black mamba holes, but not black mambas. And we saw an adult and a baby on the same day. Okay, this is a Kori bustard. Again, a portrait of the Kori. The Koris are the largest flying bird in Africa. This guy is 5 feet tall. They're also really good at killing snakes. We were watching him because there was a female nearby, and we were hoping that he would go into his display to court her, and we got lucky. He did. And as you can see, he looks like a completely different bird, and he struts like crazy. The fact that I've got an antelope of some sort in the back, that is it'll come to me. It's a gazelle. I think it's a Thompson's gazelle. It's great to have them in the picture again to anchor the shot. And again, you can tell I'm shooting at 5.6, so the bustard is the one in focus. Okay. It's also fun to shoot in early morning. These guys are helmeted guinea fowls. This shot was taken before sunrise. Remember, I said we tend to go out around 6 o'clock in the morning. And they were all over this tree. It was, I considered a really lucky shot. Really lucky shot. Again, this is another one I put in just because I love this bird. This is a battler eagle. And if you saw him as a juvenile, he's all brown and you'd think he was a completely different bird. But it's almost like he's covered in black except for the hood lifts up for his face. Okay, this is an example. I put this in particular because of the bursting. This bird is also a guinea fowl. This is called a vulturine guinea fowl. There were about 7 or 8 in the area, but he was up in the tree and I was bursting. Okay. And as I was bursting, he started to take off. And then he did take off. So I got all of these 3 shots in a matter of, well, maybe a couple of seconds. By the way, I burst at about 18 frames per second. And I usually, I can tell when I get about 3 or 4 images off, and then I usually lift my finger because bad enough, I came home with 57,000 pictures this last trip. But you'll just fill up your memory cards like crazy. So I like this because it's a great example of the value of bursting at all times. And absolutely, if you're gonna photograph animals you want their kids, this is an Egyptian goose, and I don't know if any of you have noticed, but there are Egyptian geese right now at Sepulveda. It turns out that the colony escaped from a zoo somewhere nearby and have set themselves up at Sepulveda Basin, and they're now having kids. But I think this is a fun picture of all the goslings jumping around. It's always fun to shoot flamingos. This was a very early morning shot. I happen to know that that's a lesser flamingo. And it's a bit, it's a bit iconic. 1 foot, leg bent, head down, but not in the water. I was with some other people. They were in separate trucks, and one of the people, a person saw this image. I showed it to him afterwards, and he actually asked for it. Okay, but flamingos are best when they're flying. Okay, and what I love about this image is what's happening to the bird on the right. If you look, there are splashes. Flamingos step as they're both taking off and landing, and it makes a really good shot if you burst. I put this one in because we've got one actually soaring and one that's stepping. I think he's taking off, if I'm not mistaken. And these are greater flamingos. And you could tell by the beak. But you also sort of like it when the flamingos are all sort of together. Oh, I took the picture out. Okay, so it's not there. Remember I told you that that snake eagle had its snake stolen from him? It was stolen by a tawny eagle, and these are tawnies. They're everywhere. They're aggressive as hell towards other birds, and they will attack other birds, even other eagles. Again, I like this because that one was coming in for a landing and not taking off. Okay, this is let me get the name correct. This is a southern yellow-billed hornbill. There are about 4 or 5 different species of these guys. And what I like about this shot and why I put it in is because the guy in the back is blurry. So you know that there were 2 birds there. The one in the front is I'd like to believe is stacked sharp. The one in the back is distinctively blurry. And I like what it does for the photo. Also did this for this shot. The guy in the front is the lilac-breasted roller that I mentioned earlier. And the 2 birds in the back are southern white-crowned shrikes. And again, it allows me to focus in on the bird, but do a little bit more than a simple portrait, give a sense of him in the environment. Okay. These are gray-crowned cranes. They're beautiful, but more than that, they bond for life, and they often do mating dances. This is a courting dance. And you get to see these a lot, and it's worth the shot to get it because they're such a beautiful bird, and they have a beautiful bright blue eye as well. These are called Rappel's griffon vultures. Vultures are ugly. They really are, but somehow in this picture, they're almost tolerable. Now, the question of why are they high? Because they're looking for carrion. It turns out, I'm going to talk about this a little later, there's something called the Great Migration. And there's a lot of killing that goes on in the Great Migration. It turns out, and the Great Migration is in both Tanzania and Kenya, all of the vultures follow the migration because they know the food will be available to them. And if you happen to be in a part of Tanzania or Kenya when when the migration is not there, you rarely see vultures. You'll see some, but you see them everywhere when the migration is nearby. This guy is called a pin-tailed whydah. Again, it's great if you can get him flying. I love this shot because of his tail and because of the bokeh in the background. So it really allows me to have a beautiful color behind, yet focus in. He was flying back and forth from this branch for about a good 5 minutes. So I had lots of opportunities to shoot him. Okay. I put this in. This is called a winding cisticola. Now, I can tell you, I have no idea. There are 6 or 8 species of cisticolas. And as far as I'm concerned, they're all the same. That's why I'm grateful to Lemma, who helps me identify all the birds. Why did I put this in? I put this in because he's blocked. We've got some interesting blocks with the reeds, but I still think, in my view, it's still a strong photo, as opposed to him sitting on a branch, which is often what you get with the cisticolas. Okay. This guy is called a vitelline masked weaver, excuse me. That's a male, and the males build the nest, and that's obviously the nest he's building. There's a hole on the bottom of the nest, and they're in groups. They're rather social. So you'll see maybe 8, 10, 12, even 20 of these nests at various stages of construction in the area. But what I love about this, and remember, this is part of the story of Africa, is that these guys build the nest. The female does not participate at all in the building of the nest. When he's just about done, she comes in and inspects it. And if it's not to her liking, she tears the whole thing apart and he's got to start all over again, which is pretty funny. And I've seen them tearing them apart. If you notice, I'm telling stories as part of this because I think that part of the Africa experience is not just seeing the animals, but understanding them in their environment. These birds are just gorgeous. These are African fish eagles, okay? They're huge, they're gorgeous, and they bond for life. So this is a classic mating pair of fish eagles. And I'd like to believe that the image itself communicates that because of the way they're standing. And this is a gray-headed heron, lots of herons there. But why did I put this in? And this is the last of the birds. I put it in because it tells you about the environment. You can see the acacias in the background. You can see the plains there. The plains turn out to be rather integral to the survival of the animals. And so here we are with a gray heron standing on a wood. There's got to be water nearby. And you see the world that he lives in. At this point, I'm going to stop because those are the birds, and I'm going to open it up. Are there any questions at this point?
I have a question.
Please.
Are these bird pictures taken from a truck or from a blind or a combination?
Thank you. Great question. The answer is the truck. You cannot leave the truck. The rules are as long as you're in the truck, you're safe. If you're out of the truck, you're food. And that's for real. Now, you can take a walking tour. Usually they're about 2 hours, and you have to have the guide has to be with you, and it's the only time the guide has a gun. Okay, I have walking problems, so, but I would never be interested in that. So yes, every single picture that you've seen thus far, I took from the truck. So you can tell why you need space in the truck to shoot. That answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions about the birds? All right, let's take a breather from wildlife and let's talk about the camps. Okay, this is one of the camps that I was in. This is a more rugged camp. This is the dining room. Okay, they had the cooks. They truck in the food. The food, I cannot tell you how great it is. It's really, really high quality food, and they make a lot of it. Okay, and this right over here is one of the tents, or this could also be one of the food preparation areas. I can't remember which, but this is what they tend to all look like. Okay, the thing about these camps is that they are in the middle of the bush, and there are animals around. In fact, the rules are, for the most part, that you have to be escorted walking to and from your tent or your camp, the tent. And you're walking to and from the dining room, the bar. There's even sometimes how they have swimming pools. So you need to be escorted. Now, the irony, of course, is your escort doesn't have a gun. You may have a Maasai warrior who's got a spear, but they know how to deal with the animals. So this next one is a camp I stayed in. This camp is called Elephant Bedroom. Okay. This was my tent. Okay. This guy visited the camp almost every day. His name was Obama. They actually named him. And when they come in, and there were others that come in too, when they come in, you have to move away. So, people might have been sitting here for having lunch, but as the elephants come in, they move you away from them. And it is not unusual, and it happened to me. One night I had a big bull come right next to on the other side of the tent here, and he was banging against the tent and eating and having a good time. And I always felt safe. When I'm in the tents, I feel very safe. Now, as I said, you could go from really, really high end to in the middle. This is actually a tent I've stayed in. I've stayed in this tent twice, actually. It's beautiful. Behind me is a tiled bath and a shower. Okay, as you can see, it's really nice. The walls are made of canvas. Um, and they're just beautiful. As you can see, they have even a little sitting area here. This is a two-bedroom, a two-bed. Um, Sometimes I have one. This interesting thing about this camp, it's called Samatu, and it's in the Serengeti, is that after they built the camp, a super pride of lions moved into the area. Okay, super prides usually have between 25 and 35 lions. Well, they moved into the area. So in this camp, you're not even allowed to walk to your tent. They put you in a little truck and they drive you, and then you call them. There are phones in the tent, so that you can have them come pick you up, or you tell them beforehand. They'll even bring you coffee and cookies in the morning, things like that. It's actually rather luxurious. In many, but not all of the camps, you also have Wi-Fi in your room. This is the Serengeti. Actually, no, this is the Masai Mara, excuse me, in Kenya. Um, the again, the acacias are there, but it's really a plain. And I like this because the zebra is it's it's almost a portrait. Okay, you always want it. The stripings on the zebras are just great. Okay, these guys came down to the water together, and they gave me the shot that I was really looking for, having them all together like that. By the way, there are crocodiles in this water, so they have to be careful. I put this in not only because he's a baby, but the position of him is important. He's there because he sees us. It turns out that the baby zebra, or the colt, I guess, or the foal, excuse me, blends in with the stripes of his mother, so predators can't see him. So what he did, or she did, I don't know if it's a male or female, positioned himself so that for us, he would disappear into the stripes. And so you'll see this, you'll see them either do that or you see them often walk to the other side of the mother. I put this picture in because the striping patterns are just great here. And I'm a believer in taking the backside of animals. Some people don't like it. I do. I think it helps to tell the story. So these guys are just walking away. They were part of a group of maybe 50 or 60, but there was a nice little break, so I got a decent shot. I actually opened up. This is not 5, 6. It was like, I think I went to like 8 to get because they were a little bit far away, and I wanted them to all be in focus. Sorry, and if you could tell, this guy is slightly out of focus back here. The nice thing about zebras is they'll give you action, and one of the things you want to get are zebras fighting, and I got that in this shot. You'll notice that there are wildebeest in the back here as well. I'm going to talk about that in a minute more. But the action shots for zebras really are fighting and dust bathing. And they do a fair amount of this. Spotted hyenas. We did very well with this. Usually you'll see 2 or 3, but we had 6. And the irony is they were all watching behind us because there were 3 lions behind us. And they were very, very nervous about the lions. This is one of my favorite shots of these guys because they were running. And I put it in because it's one of my favorite shots. Okay. Isn't he cute? Is a baby hyena just the most adorable thing? As I was bursting, that happened. And all of a sudden, his cuteness is gone. Cheetahs, again, a portrait, a nice portrait, but they give you other nice portraits too. You'll see 3 cheetahs like this. These are adults, these are males. The females are by themselves, the males hang out together as brothers, and they hunt as a group. This is a mama with some babies. If you notice the white on the back, it's a biological adaptation. They're very, very young, and they look like, oh my God, I just had the name of the animal. Honey badgers, which are some of the most ferocious animals in the bush. So the animals think they're honey badgers, so they keep away. Clearly, the hunt is important with cheetahs. This isn't the greatest shot, but it's really hard to get these shots because these animals are running at 65 miles an hour. But at least I got something. It was raining. We were in a truck, and 2 ran right by us on a hunt. and got it. Again, not the greatest of pictures, but I happen to like this picture. Okay. Sometimes you get weird things. And I took this picture and I said to my driver, what are those things? He asked me to guess, and I failed. They are hippopotamus tracks, if you can believe it. Hippopotamus, for the most part, are in the water during the day because they get sunburn and it's hot. But rarely you'll see them out. When they're out of the water, they only eat. They eat only when they're out of the water. They're incredibly dangerous. They're one of the few animals in Africa that kill for sport. And they can run 35 miles an hour. This is the biggest hippo pool in the Serengeti. And the only thing that's more interesting than the hippo pool itself is the odor, which is brutal. Okay. Of course, you take a picture of a hippo, you've got to have one with his mouth open. Then this is one of the iconic shots. Another one is with the baby, mama and a baby. And then you would like the clever shot, like this one with their eyes. And then you get lucky and a hammer cop decided to stand on top of this guy. This happened on my last trip. There's only one shot of this. This is a rhino. This is a female black rhino. There are only 6,000 in existence. They're profoundly endangered. She's pregnant. We're at a reserve where they're breeding them. And if you don't know it, they're incredible. They're hunted because the Chinese believe their horns are aphrodisiacs. And rather than just cut off the horn, which would grow back, they kill them. It's easier. This guy is an olive baboon, and clearly baby baboons are really cute. And this is, you see this a lot. These are the olives. The baby tends to ride on the back of the mom. And these are the first time I had seen these. These are chakma baboons. And there aren't very many of them, and they're in Botswana, but they're sort of cool. And rarely do you see them drink at the water, and this guy was one of them drinking. And these are yellow baboons, and these guys are really active, and they're beautiful. This is a juvenile, okay? I love this. We were watching them play, and this guy just hung out for a little while. And if you can get a mama in a baby in the mama's arms, it's always a nice shot. These guys were trying to ford a river, and they were in line one by one, jumping from area to area. And you can see the baby hangs on to the bottom of the mother as they're jumping, and they're jumping 8 to 10 feet at a clip. And I never saw a baby fall, and we saw a troop of about 30 animals. This is not a baboon. This is a vervet monkey, and they're just smaller. They're very photogenic, and obviously a nice portrait. I'm so thrilled with this picture. I cannot tell you. That baby had literally just been born. It was wet, and I got it just as she picked the baby up to put it to her breast for the first time. We did see colobus on one of my trips, and we got one jumping across in the air. And you know, the tail and the all of the hair on the back act as wings to help it fly. Giraffes, clearly they're the most gentle and the most beautiful and most elegant of all the animals there. Again, in the wild. We saw a crowd of them, which is always exciting, always exciting. And we always talk about making sure there's space in the pictures. You can see the space. It's thrilling to get a giraffe drinking. On this last trip, I got 4 of them, which was very exciting. This was in Botswana. These are Cape buffalo. They're incredibly ornery. They kill people, and they kill lions. This guy, the space from here to here is about 5 feet. Okay. And I don't have a lot of them. I just have one other picture because you can play with it. If you've got great rim light, you can turn it into a black and white that really looks different and cool. Okay, leopards, hard to find, but sometimes you get lucky. This is a termite mound. You see them in trees and you look for the tails, and in shooting, you've always got to watch for the tail. Okay? A baby, excuse me, a cub. And we were on this leopard for almost 3 hours. As the sun was setting, we hung out in hopes that he would move so that we could get a silhouette of him. We got it, and also got his tongue out as he came by. Elephants, clearly this is a herd of elephants, so there are no adult males walking in the bush. This area back here is actually the base of Mount Kilimanjaro. This is the herd's walking, but you're more likely to see them walk this way in a line. Again, they're the adult females, the juvenile and baby elephants. The juveniles and babies also have males. As soon as they mature, they're chased away. This is a male. Once you mature, you're chased away and you wander by yourself. I love this shot because this bird is 2 feet tall. And he walked right toward us. This is probably the most iconic shot I've ever gotten. This is an elephant walking in front of Mount Kilimanjaro. People drool to get this shot. The color isn't the greatest, but I'm really thrilled with it. Elephants, you want them at the water holes. Okay. You want them dust bathing. You want them either fighting or play fighting. Or you just generally want them fighting and playing, excuse me. And they do this. They're fun to be around, but they're also very dangerous. And this was a lucky shot I got one night as the sun was going down, and I got them in silhouette. And yes, there are crocodiles. They're big. They're up to 18 feet long. And while this could be a boring picture, take a shot of the scales. It becomes something else to talk about. Lions, these are 2 adult males. Brothers, when you see adult males like this, brothers, if you look at his face, he was in a fight, probably defending the territory, and he was bloodied. You want him in a tree. If their paws are down, you want the paws, but you also want to get the tail. Too many times we cut off the tail in these kinds of shots. That was a female. Lions sleep most of the day. So everybody shows you these great pictures of the lions all doing cool stuff, but this is mostly what you see, lying on the ground during the day, sleeping. This was a mom up on a rock. I like this for the angle. She had, these cubs are about 8 weeks old, and I don't know what they were looking at. These are 3 moms, 3 females, probably sisters, but not necessarily so, walking back to where the babies were. And I got some babies, cute little cubs. Again, I put this in because they're walking. This is one of my favorite pictures because she's looking out into the Serengeti. Okay, and it just tells you what the Serengeti looks like. By the way, in the Ma language, which is the language of the Maasai, it means endless plain. And sometimes you can even get rim light on a female. This is a wildebeest. They are part of the Great Migration. They do a lot of running, okay? And they're part of the Great Migration with zebras. The Great Migration is a big loop that they're moving constantly. They're following the rains. They move with the zebras. Right now, there are about 3 million zebras, about 6 million wildebeest. They move together, and the zebras eat the top half of the grass, and the wildebeest eat the lower part of the grass. At some point, twice a year, they have to cross the Mara River. And it's always a crapshoot to see whether they're going to cross or not, because they're afraid of crossing the Mara River because the Mara River has 18-foot crocodiles in it. So they cross in mass, and you see these big movements of animals crossing. One year, they stayed on the side the entire 4 days I was there. This last trip, I know 2 trips ago, I saw them cross 3 times in one day. The exciting part is they jump as they're jumping into the water, which is really cool. And then this is what it's like as they're crossing, and this is what it's like when they lose. This croc got him. They fought for about 20 minutes and he finally lost. Sunsets are beautiful. I love this. Oh, excuse me, this is a sunrise, not a sunset. I love this shot. And it's quintessential because it's the acacia. We've got that's actually the migration underneath it. And it tells you it's Africa. There are a lot of crepuscular lights, also called God rays, and they really can add to the photo. This is part of the Masai Mara, and these trees make dots. And Masai Mara actually means dotted plain. And this is a kopi, which is in the Serengeti, and it turns out is critical to the Serengeti. This is where the water comes up. And so virtually always, you'll find a herd of lions. And those lions that you saw up on the rock formation, it wasn't this kopi, but it was another. Okay, there are tribes there. This is Tanzania and Kenya. So these are the Maasai. You can visit the camps. Usually your guide will take you there. You pay a little money. They sell you trinkets and things, but then you can take pictures. The Maasai are known for jumping, the men. The men are polygamous, and the higher you jump, the more desirable you are as a mate. So I've often thought that I would be a bachelor for most of my life. The men jump, the women actually they rock, and those things around their necks flap. They're really cool to see. And so you could take group pictures, but you can also take portraits. This woman was married to the chief of the tribe. And this guy was dressed in his lion headdress. We paid both of these guys to pose for us. And by the way, to the question that was asked, we were out of the trucks for these photos. Scared to death, I might add. Out of the trucks, and we had people watching for the animals. And but these are flash as well. The last two are flash shots, off-camera flash. This tells me it's the end of my presentation. And this is a sunset in Amboseli, which is part of Kenya. So that's it.